This is what I'm dealing with now. Holy cow. That thing is all the way over across my carrots, all the way down next to my cucumbers. Hey, farm and garden friends. Today we're going to talk about volunteers in the garden. Now, I'm not talking about your friendly neighbor or the helpful wildlife creatures that may try to come in at night and help you do a little harvesting. But what I am talking about are those plants that pop up in your beds in the springtime that come out of nowhere. So we're going to talk about where they come from and whether we should or should not keep them in the garden. And I'd really like to get your guys' opinion on a little situation, sneak peek, that I've got going on in the garden. So let's take a look. So one of the most common volunteers that we get are tomato plants. And my wife yells at me every time I do it, but I pull a ton of tomato plants every year that seem to pop up, obviously from tomatoes that have fallen on the ground and the seeds went in and they came back up. So that's one place that volunteers can come from. I let these two go. And I'm going to trellis these up and just see what they produce. Now, another place that they can come from is if you're making your own compost and then seeds in the compost from the previous year get laid out, and they can come up that way as well. Another interesting one, actually right down here in this bed, and this is for a little bit different reason, are these raspberry bushes. Okay, I had initially planted one raspberry bush down on the end a few years ago at the ends of all these beds, and then I went through last year and transplanted them. Well, I guess this spring I transplanted some as well when I made that raspberry bed, because what happens is, even though you may pull them out, if any of the root structure is still under the ground, that's how these spread and multiply, is through their root system. We've got some pretty nice looking raspberry plants coming up. I'll probably end up transplanting these over into the raspberry patch. But that is another volunteer that will pop up on occasion. So those are a couple volunteers that popped up in our garden, in our beds. Even though I'm flipping my beds, they still popped up. And I let a few of them go. I'm gonna show you another crazy situation. Over here in our strawberry patch, this year has gotten taken over by volunteer potato plants that are just about done. Look at all of these. Now, we have not had potatoes in this bed for a couple of years, but all these popped up again this year. Obviously from little spuds that were left last year from the volunteers that popped up when we realized there were still some in that bed from the year before. So we dug them up, thought we got all of them. But then again, this year it's pretty full. We'll get a lot of potatoes out of the bed that we weren't expecting. And it really won't harm the strawberries. I will probably split the crowns on those strawberries anyway, so it won't hurt to dig them up and get the potatoes out from underneath there. All right, guys, now for the situation that I really want your opinion on. So please leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think I should do here, and maybe I will, maybe I won't take your advice, but we'll see. I probably will, because I'm really not sure what I want to do here. So this spring, right there, up popped a little plant right in the pathway between two beds. I thought, well, we'll let it grow, because I had an idea that it was probably a pumpkin, and it is a pumpkin plant. One plant, guys. Now I let it go. My question for you is, should I keep letting it go and spread it out into this bed that I'm flipping here, and just designate this bed to that pumpkin plant? Because we're talking one plant, guys. One plant I let pop up and go. But as you guys know, pumpkins like to vine out and spread. So this is what I'm dealing with now. Holy cow. That thing is all the way over across my carrots, all the way down next to my cucumbers. Have you ever seen anything like it? Now, I knew it'd get spread. I knew it'd get big and spread, but I didn't know it would get that big. I think it's actually my Big Max pumpkins that I planted a couple years ago, and the seed obviously survived. But the conundrum I have is I did not plant any pumpkins this year. My thought is I leave it, maybe harvest a few pumpkins off it, just designate a bed to it. I got to plant these beds out tomorrow anyway, which I'll be doing a video on that, so stay tuned. But let me know what you guys think. Drop a comment below. Should I keep this giant volunteer pumpkin plant, or should I just yank it out and plant something in that bed? You guys tell me, and we'll see what happens. If you want to follow along, guys, and see if this thing really does produce some giant pumpkins, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and smash that like button on the way out. We'll see you on the next one.